Hello, welcome to my shop. Today I want to show you a brand new device that's going to really help you improve making cuts on large stock in your workshop. One of the biggest challenges in your workshop is how do you cross-cut or cut angles on that large sheet of plywood or stock. The piece that I've got laying on top of the workbench right now is approximately 4 feet by 6 feet, and trying to manhandle this up on my table saw could be very difficult and also very dangerous. Now, some of you guys have gone out there and purchased a straight edge clamp, and we use this as a guide tool for cutting these large sheets of stock. It has a built-in cam clamp action that allows us to clamp this down onto our stock and use it as a guide up against our circular saw or router. Now, the two things that I found challenging about this clamp is, number one, it will only cut across the piece of plywood at a 90 degree. It will not do any angles. And number two, when I use a router on it, which takes a lot of sideways force, this thinner rail has a tendency to deflect, and I don't get a perfectly straight line. So what we've done is we've improved that concept, changed it around a little bit, and made it very versatile for us to do 90 degree or any sort of angle you want to on that large sheet of stock. The first thing that we've done is we've handled the sideways deflection by doubling the size of the guide rail. This rail will absolutely positively have no deflection sideways no matter what kind of force we put on it. It's approximately 5 inches in width and 62 inches in length. Now, the reason why we made it so long is so that when you do angles like this, you still have enough rail to get across that entire sheet of plywood. Next, we've designed a miter head that locks onto the T-track of the side of the straight edge. It's got all the popular angles in there as far as a quick set, so if you want to pop it over to 45 degrees, it only takes a couple seconds to get that in place. Now, this is going to turn that straight edge into a giant T-square. The way it mounts, little T-slot on the side of your clamp, we slide our two little T-knobs into place. We take a knob and bolt and secure that down onto that straight edge. Now, one of the great features about having this in a T-slot is that it actually allows us to adjust that rail back and forth depending upon how wide our stock is to get the maximum cutting ability out of our straight edge. We secure that into place, and now when we bring this over here on our mark, all we need to do is put a little sideways pressure up here, and it automatically squares up that straight edge for you. Now, when it comes down to cutting an angle, that's the real challenging part, because table saws really aren't going to allow us to cut an angle across this sheet of plywood. With our clamping system, all we do is loosen the locking nut on the mitered head, and we pivot this to the angle that we're going to cut. In this case, I'm going to line that up to 22.5 degree angle, and we're going to line that over to our mark. Now, how do we hold the straight edge in place? And that's the challenging part about those straight edge clamps, is that when you put it at an angle like this, you don't have a place to really grab a hold of. Well, we've solved that with our patent-pending adjustable C-clamps. The head on that C-clamp actually rotates. What that allows us to do is line up the clamping mechanics with the straight edge, but pivot the head underneath the stock to get us maximum clamping capabilities. If this head would pivot, we would not be able to clamp the straight edge down. Now, if we use the C-clamp or an F-clamp on the top side of this clamp, it's going to get in the way of our motor on our circular saw or router. If I had a C-clamp sticking up right here, I couldn't get past it. The nice feature about our clamps is that they're on the underside. They do not come in line with the cutting action and allow us to secure that straight edge in a matter of seconds. Now, I'm going to walk around to the front of the bench here. Slide our clamp into the head, pivot that up underneath the stock, and secure that into place. Underneath here, the actual clamping mechanics are going sideways, even though the head is inside the clamp of the straight edge, which gives us a very secure clamping force and doesn't allow this piece to move whatsoever. Now, all we need to do is take our circular saw, ride that up against that edge, and make a perfectly straight cut, just like we would on our table saw. Now that we've shown you how to use your adjustable guide system, let's talk about some accessories that are available for it. There are many types out there that you can buy as add-ons to your adjustable guide. Two of the accessories in particular that I'd like to show you are our router plate and our saw plate. Now the reason why I recommend these is because they're going to actually help you improve the performance or the cut when we're using our straight edge guide. The circular saw plate is made from a UHMW material. This is a very slippery material which will help guide our saw across those veneers, but more importantly, it will not damage or scratch the surface. Unlike the metal surface on the bottom of these circular saws that have a tendency to leave marks behind, they become very difficult to sand out or remove. The other thing that I like about the saw plate is we can plunge the saw blade through the plate, creating a zero clearance effect on the underside of the plate. This will eliminate splintering and tear out on the top side of our plywood. The other accessory that I want to show you is our router plate. Now I really like using the router plate because when you use a router up against the guide, the router bit really wants to pull itself and wander away from that straight edge. By attaching the router to your plate, and then the guide of the plate locks into the T-track, it allows this to slide smoothly across that sheet of plywood with absolutely no side-to-side movement. What this means is we've turned our straight edge guide that we use with our circular saw into a giant dado tool. By putting a straight bit in our router, we can create any size dado and any size sheet of stock that we like. Could you imagine trying to take this big sheet of plywood over to our router table to create that dado running across there at an angle? This is really the only way that I've found to be able to create those larger projects. My name is Dave Hughes, and I hope you've enjoyed watching the adjustable guide system today.